Thank you for watching. This is Edward Finch, and these are my opinions. In last week's episode, I said that the Republicans wouldn't come out with an agenda because they would have no way to defend it. However, this past week, Rick Scott came out with an agenda for the Republicans. His agenda is 63 pages long, but a lot of it is just pictures, and the actual wording is about 30 pages, which is still considerable. I have posted a link to it below, and I encourage everyone to take a look at it and read it. Senator Scott starts with a letter to the American people, and the first sentence of his letter reads, "The militant left now controls the entire federal government, the news media, academia, Hollywood, and most of corporate boardrooms, but they want more." Did Rick Scott ever stop and think that maybe the reason people tend to vote Democrat is because we like the way Democrats govern us? Senator Scott then goes on to summarize his 11-point plan. The 11 points in his plan are education, equality, safety, immigration, economy, government debt, elections, family, gender, life and science, religion and big tech, and America first. Over the next several weeks, I will take a look at each one of these, but for today, let's start with his first step, which is education. The education point starts with a summary. We will inspire patriotism and stop teaching the revolutionist history of the radical left. Our kids will learn about the wisdom of the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Founding Fathers. Public schools will focus on the 3 R's, not indoctrinate children with critical race theory or any other political ideology. Wow, and that's just a summary. Let me take a minute here and give you a couple of my thoughts on this. My first question to Senator Scott is why just the Bill of Rights and not the other 17 amendments that have been added to the Constitution? My next comment is the 3 R's? Really? That goes back to the 70s. In today's world, we need to be teaching STEAM. For those of you who are not familiar, STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Lastly, I want to make a comment about critical race theory. First of all, it's really not taught in elementary schools. And why wouldn't we want to teach our students the history of the United States? He then goes on to produce 12 steps. And these steps would need to be followed so that his education point would be met. His first step is parents and not government will choose the best schools for their children. Aren't parents already able to do that? They can homeschool if they feel that's right for them. They can send their children to private schools, or they can send their children to tax-funded public schools. His second step is we will enact equal opportunity in education, school choice. No child will be sent to a failing school just because of their zip code. To this I say, cool. Every person should send their child to the schools in Naples, Florida, because apparently Rick Scott doesn't mind paying for schools with his tax dollars. And I'm also assuming that will include transportation. The third step in his plan is kids in public school will say the Pledge of Allegiance, stand for the national anthem, and honor the American flag. We must foster national unity. I agree that we need national unity. I am a Catholic, and I believe in my religion. However, there are many that do not believe as I do, yet still honor our country. The Pledge of Allegiance was originally written in 1892 by a Baptist minister, And it did not include at that time the words under God. Those were not added until 1954. Maybe we shouldn't force people to pledge allegiance to God and the country at the same time if we want unity for the country. Step 4 is we will open our schools to parents. Parents must have the right to know what their children are being taught, who is the teacher, and which organizations receive school contracts. I have worked in our city school district for 18 years, and I have 2 children of my own who are reaching the end of their public school life. Parents have access to schools. All they have to do is take interest in their children, and they will know who the child's teacher is, and they will know what is being taught to them. Step 5, and this really starts getting bizarre now. The FBI and DOJ and all government entities will be expressly forbidden from intimidating parents who speak out their minds at school board meetings. Parents have the right to speak to their teachers, administrators, and school board members. That's not the problem. I could go to the school board and say, I think all children who believe in God need to go to a different school because I don't want them talking to my child. And that's plenty all right. The problem is when you start threatening or intimidating the school board members. So if I went there and I said, all Catholics or all children who believe in God need to go to a different school, that's okay. But if I say, if you don't do that, I'm going to assemble a mob and we're going to attack the superintendent, well, then that's illegal. And we should prosecute anybody who does something illegal. Step 6 is public schools will teach our children to love America. While not perfect, it is exceptional. It is good and a beacon of freedom in the often dark world. I think we can all agree on this one. However, I think how we would go about teaching children this would vary differently. Step 7 is, no child will be taught they are inherently racist because of the color of their skin, or that some Americans are oppressors and other Americans are oppressed. Okay, Senator Scott, are you telling me that there's no racism in America? Are you telling me that some people are not oppressed by other people? Throughout your agenda, you oppress those who want to choose their own gender, and you oppress those who don't believe in the religion that you believe in. You are an oppressor. Step 8 is teacher tenure at public schools must be eliminated because it protects inadequate teachers, not good teachers. Don't you find it odd how Republicans are always saying that the state governments and local governments should do the governing and that the federal government should keep their hands off? And yet, this is something that should be decided by local school boards, not the federal government. Step 9. We will not allow political or social indoctrination in our schools. Teachers who refuse to comply will need to find new jobs. Well, let me tell you something. I live in Wyoming, and we're a rather red state. And both of my kids go to schools where they have to listen to the teachers talk about how great Trump was. And there's, out in the parking lot, there's cars out there with big Trump flags flying on them and Trump bumper stickers all over the place. And one of my sons brought a pride flag, a rainbow flag, to school one day, and he got in trouble for that. So you might ask me, am I mad? Not really, because part of going to school is learning how to live in society with people who have differing opinions. Step 10. No public school will be allowed to discriminate against voluntary prayer or force children to check their faith at the door. That's great. Is this for all religions? Does this mean that Muslims could bow to Mecca several times during the day? What about Satanism? Can that be worshipped in school? Step 11. This is a doozy. We will close the Federal Department of Education. Education is a state-run function. If Congress wants to spend money on education, they can cut out the middleman and send it directly to schools and parents. That's interesting. I believe that's how the school districts get money now, is it's sent directly to the school districts. Last year, the federal government spent about $60 billion on education. That is about 10% of the budget needed to run the schools. So the other 90% came from state and local governments. Most of that $60 billion was to provide nutritional food to schools and to provide services for special needs children. If the federal government is no longer going to pay for those programs, then the state's going to have to pay for them, and the state tax dollars are just going to have to go up. It has to get paid for from somewhere. And if the federal government wants to get out of education, why did you even include education as one of your points in your agenda? Finally, we get to the last step, which is step 12. Step 12 states, it will be America's goal to be number one in the world in math and science by 2030. Well, that's a great soundbite. I like the way that sounds. However, hasn't that been our goal all along? Aren't we striving to be number one in math and science at all times? And how do we reach that goal? So you may ask, what's my opinion of this? Well, even if you didn't ask, I'm going to give it to you anyway. To me, this plan screams of bringing education back to where it was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And yes, I did go to school during that time. However, almost every nation on earth has modernized their education system since then. The United States is already being left behind as far as education is concerned. Let me give you an example. I was going to college in the late 90s, and I was talking to one of my fellow classmates. We were taking a course in differential equations, which put simply means solving simultaneous equations using calculus. And he was telling me, I've already had all of this. We did this in 8th grade in India. When it comes to school funding, there's a perception that schools are already overfunded. Let me tell you a little story, because this really is not true. I have worked in the technology department of our local school district for the past 18 years. In 2000, I graduated school with a degree in information systems and started working at a large e-commerce site. I have gained 22 years of experience since that time, and yet, last year, I made 66% of what I was making when I left the e-commerce site in 2003. In the past 10 years, I have only received raises large enough to offset the additional costs of healthcare. And I am currently making 43% of the national average of what somebody with my education and 5 years of experience would make. So no, I don't think that our schools are overfunded. Finally, I think schools should be for educating children on how to become productive citizens. I don't think it should be for teaching religion. I go to church every Sunday morning, and I don't expect the priest to get up there and during his homily talk about sentence structure or solving long division, nor do I expect to go to school and learn about religion. I think the country has lost its priority for education, and I think that's sad because we are going to get left behind if we don't educate our kids. We should not be spending only 1/10 of the military budget on an education budget. Now, I have to shamelessly ask for your help. I need you to post this video on all of your social media. I'm trying to start a movement here, but I'm really not getting any traction. I need your help. So please, please, please post this, share it with your friends. Let's get a movement going. Thank you and have a great day.